who's listening. Welcome to our podcast. I'm Assunta, and this is Dr. Chippy.
Hello.
And I wanted to start this podcast because we have a lot to say, and we're pretty passionate about all the things we have to say. And one of the things we were talking about, which was Dr. Chippy's night last night, was she had a sort of an end of an era party. Can we call it an end of an era party?
It was, 20 years. Well,
20
years
at that hospital.
20 years of a practice. Yeah.
Yeah. 20 years there.
Yeah.
So,
just decided, done. I was done.
Yeah. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what last night was closure to, and what they can look forward to.
So last night was, I guess, really a celebration of me. Does that sound so egotistical? But
I think it was. I think it was a tribute. I think it was a celebration. Honestly, I think for the ones left behind, I think it might have been a funeral. I mean, because I think that they are legitimately so sad that they have lost such an asset to their day-to-day practice. And I think the patients feel it. I think everyone, I think the staff feels it. I mean, you were a huge asset to the practice for so many years. I remember the day that they poached you.
Yeah. So
when you moved over from
Bradenton. So my journey starts with all journey. When you're an Indian, you're given a choice to be a doctor, or a doctor. So that was my choice in high school. And, I think it's crazy. I've been putting in all-nighters since high school to get to this place. And it was high school, med school, residency, fellowship, practice. I remember coming into practice the very first interview, and I said, listen, I'm looking for a part-time position because I just had a baby. And they're like, yeah, no, that's not an option. So since then, I have been averaging 60 to 90 hours a week.
Easily.
I've
seen
50.
You average 30 in a weekend.
Oh, yeah.
I've witnessed that.
Yeah. So after wanting to do something different for 15 to 20 years, I think initially I was excited. You put in all this effort to go into a medical practice, all your knowledge, you're so excited to share it. And then you just see the same pattern, right? The same pattern of people, the same sickness, the same behavior that is leading to that pattern of illness. And you start to realize that as physicians, we play an incredible role when someone is acutely ill. And cardiology, that was one of the things that drew me to cardiology, because it was, you made a difference to people's lives instantaneously. You had heart failure, I gave you a diuretic IV, and within a few hours you were breathing better. You come in with a massive heart attack, my colleague will put a stent in a blocked artery, and you go from coding on the table to asking when you can go home. So cardiology was just incredible. The power that we had to change people's lives instantaneously. But then when the acuteness is over, and this is, what every physician that gives up traditional practice, that is moving into a space where we want to see the patient as a whole, everyone says the same thing. Medicine of today is nothing beats medicine of today for an acute illness. But for chronic disease, we fail miserably. And I want
and forgive me for interrupting, but for healthcare.
Oh, I mean, we could talk, how jaded do we want to get? How jaded do we want to get?
Probably not on our first date with our audience. We should probably be perfect, little diplomats. We'll
So
grow.
yes,
We'll grow
well,
on you.
okay, then let's. So I guess I want to. I changed. I'm transitioning out of this traditional practice of cardiology, cardiovascular medicine, to that of preventive medicine, and not just cardiac. Because I remember telling this one friend of mine, cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, arthritis, it's all the same disease
Hmm.
because the root is the same. And I want to be in a place where I can teach people that the root of every symptom you have is very common. And if we can change that, then we can change your outcome.
Yeah,
And that's what I want to do. So I
that's right.
guess I want to empower people to be their best healers. And that's my
Yeah.
new practice. And last
I'm
night was
so
my
happy for you.
I'm happy for
Well,
me.
and unlike you, you say you've wanted this for about 15 or so years. I've wanted it for 20.
Ever since you
I've been
met me,
I've
you've
been
been telling
begging.
me, you
I've
really
been
should
begging you to do
do
this.
something on your own.
Well, honestly, I believe that. Like, even had you stayed the course, I always believed you could have done it alone. And I think had you done it alone, whether or not you'd gotten here any sooner, no one knows. But
Yeah,
I believe
right.
that the wear and tear that you feel
Oh,
now would have been a little bit
yeah,
different if you did go and had to do it on your own. But
sure.
I remember. I mean, we had small children, and life was extremely different, and it's
Hmm.
hard, and it's a big leap into the unknown, especially
Hmm.
when you've gone through so much. There's school,
Training to just
there's
think of something very, I mean, an intense training, right? So
yeah,
you have a symptom, we have a fix for that one symptom.
yeah,
You have high blood pressure, we'll give you medication. You have high cholesterol, we'll give you medication. You've had a heart attack, we'll give you X, Y, and Z. And never, or do we have an opportunity when you're sitting with that patient, when you have just a few precious moments with them, till another patient, and another patient.
yeah,
You don't
yeah.
have
I
that
know. I
moment to
watched The
say,
Resident.
right?
I know.
That's right. This is going to make you a doctor. I forgot.
I watched The Resident. I
So
know.
yeah, it's
Well,
you
what made
can't
me
make an
passionate.
impact.
Well, you do make an impact. I think it's not the impact that you hope to make, but you absolutely make an impact,
Meaningful.
and
I
that's
want to
what
make
last
a
night was about. Going back to that conversation, last night was a beautiful tribute and a beautiful way for you to exit and to transition into the next thing that you're going to do, and the impact that you've made on this community. I mean, you know what you are, Chippy? You're a household name.
Oh.
You are, and you know you are, and
I
you don't have to be
registered.
modest about it. You don't have to be
Oh
modest
my
about
gosh.
it.
I registered so I
I mean,
registered Dr.
move out of the
Chippy
way, Dr.
LLC.
Bronner.
I registered Dr. Chippy LLC, and today I called to get renter's insurance. And the guy's like, that's your company name. I said, yeah, it's Dr. Chippy LLC. I remember, the first moment I embraced Dr. Chippy, I went in to see a patient, and she could not say my last name. And she just looked at me finally, this beautiful, old, wise woman. And she said, Dr. Chippy. Chippy, what a name. That's your name. It's
Yeah,
Dr. Chippy. And I said, oh, yeah, okay. Let's go with it. Dr.
and I
Chippy.
understand that completely because with my name, people are so confused when they'll say, can you spell your name for me? And I do, and they're like, "What's your first name?" I'm like, "That was my first name," and that's it. I don't
Yeah.
even have a middle name. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, I
it's
don't
kind of
either.
nice to have a unique name because it's like I have, it's like Madonna or Cher
Well, I'm embracing it finally. It
or
took me a long
Bono.
time.
All the greats, Elvis.
All
No,
the
famous people
grades.
don't need a last name.
Chippy. That's right.
Chippy and
Madonna,
Assunta.
Chippy. There you go.
Cher.
Share.
Yeah. I
Mm.
mean, so I think so. What we're doing here for anybody who's listening is I have been I've been so excited about this day. I mean, I wanted to start this for a very long time, we're so lucky to have such easy technology now, because that was kind of my hang up, was just
Mm-hmm.
the accessibility, not being as tech savvy as I've always wanted to be, and then, being able to do it so easily. But the
But
objective
now
is
we
that,
have daughters. But now we have daughters that,
we have Riverside and we have daughters.
right, right.
Do we want
That
to talk
set us
about the
up. That
fiasco?
just set us up this afternoon.
I mean, so yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know us, Chippy and I met about 20. Well, our daughters are 24 now, and they were in preschool, and our youngest, who are now 20, weren't even in preschool yet. So it's been a many, many years that I've
Mm-hmm.
been so fortunate to have this lovely, beautiful lady in my life, and I have been a huge advocate for her to do what she's doing, finally doing. And I might be the most excited. I'm sending her
I think you're more
patients
excited than I am.
like 5 patients a day. She hasn't even left her other company. She doesn't even have an office to go to. And I'm like, you got 5 new patients. So there's nowhere to take them, and you don't even know what you're doing. But it doesn't matter.
Right, right.
Because I know that they're in the best hands. And so one of the things that I wanted to start this podcast about was, 24 years ago for me, I, unfortunately, on the other side of the Western medicine spectrum, was a very critical patient with
Mm-hmm.
chronic disease that I had never had before. And I'm so fortunate that that's not how our paths
Right, crossed.
crossed, because at that time I had a very unfortunate interaction with Western medicine, and I went through all of the layers of bureaucracy that turn people off to something that is, like you said, when it comes to the life or death of a person, there is no better place than to
Mm-hmm.
take them to a medical doctor. But all of that said, what we are learning more and more every day is that there is preventative medicine, and it is something that's not discussed in medical school. And I think, Chippy, you have said to me one time, that one of the most frightening things about that journey in medical school that you experienced was they tell you, 50% of what you learn on this journey is going to be wrong by the time you exit this. The problem
And
is we
and you
don't
don't
know
know
which half.
which half.
So I remember you saying that to me, and it was such a profound thing. And so, it's up to us as patients to vet these doctors and to make sure that things are happening. And so, when I found myself in that position, I mean, I was an ICU patient the night I gave birth to my first child. So our journey started, you know, at a very similar
Opposite.
time,
Yeah.
but on
Well,
complete opposite sides of
completely.
the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
You were
Mm-hmm.
so excited about getting into the medical world and
Mm-hmm.
helping people and
Mm-hmm.
healing people, and I was so happy. I was thriving. I had a thriving business. My husband and we had more disposable income than we knew what to do with, because we were just
Mm-hmm.
two young entrepreneurs that we just
Mm-hmm.
happened to hit the target at the right time. We were married, happy, in love, bought our first home on Siesta Key, and we were pregnant with our first child.
Mm.
What could possibly go wrong?
Until
Well,
everything went
everything.
wrong. Yeah.
Everything about my life completely went into another direction, one that I couldn't plan for, one that health insurance did not help me
Mm-hmm.
prevent, nor did it help me take care of me. And so, from that day forward, I have done nothing but do my research on how can I stay healthy, because what was proven to me that day, because I wasn't coding on a table, because I wasn't a life or death situation,
Well, you
I
came
was
pretty close.
I came pretty close. I mean, my hemoglobin was 2.3, and I refused a blood transfusion, which was I made that problem worse.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted me to remove my colon and get a colostomy bag, and I just thought, this is insane. I was healthy. I don't want to. What are
Mm-hmm.
we doing here? I just had a baby, and all of it just sounded insane to me. It was like I just stepped into a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how my journey started into what I consider as well, which is preventative medicine and alternatives. And I hate saying that word, forgive me, because I don't like to call them alternatives, but I call them just, um, you know, well, I don't know what you call them.
And there's so many terminologies, right? There's functional medicine, there's alternative medicine, and some of these are kind of archaic, but you know,
well, I
it's
don't like
not one
calling
or
a
the
medicine
other. Right.
that's been around longer than us,
Well, right. I mean,
alternative,
you have the ancient, right, exactly.
right? There's like this
I think,
ancient,
well, the Ayurvedic medicine,
yeah.
the medicine
I
of the
mean, how old is
East.
Ayurvedic medicin?
I mean, probably
Who knows?
doctrines that go back three, maybe some people say 5,000 years.
Yeah,
But I think they're not mutually exclusive, right? I think we have to put them together.
I
So
wish
so
the
the
world would put them
problem,
together.
you're right. The problem is you're on one side or the other, and I feel like
Yeah, yeah, they have to make
right,
us make
I
a
have.
choice, and
Right.
I don't like
It
that.
doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be the case. And physicians, we played a big role in that. That if there isn't a randomized control trial to prove this or
I
that,
try to get the sun out of my
then
eyes.
then it doesn't exist. And so
Yeah,
obviously randomized control trials are incredibly meaningful data, but we throw
of course they are. Of course.
everything else out, and maybe the answer for some individuals is a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But for me, the approach is not even that. The approach is you. So if someone is coming to see me, and when we came up with this, right, the 5+1.
I know.
So if,
I'm
so
kind of
if,
proud of that.
I am too. It just kind of came up in our conversation when we were talking about this, because
And it
for
makes no
me,
sense for anybody listening because 5+1 is 6. So why don't we just call it 6? But we don't know why. We don't have the answer to that.
well,
We
we
just
kind
have
of
the answer
do.
to the 5+1. Well,
The,
yeah, that's
well,
right. We do kind of. You're
yeah,
right.
we
You're
do
right. We
kind
do.
of.
We do.
So,
We do.
I guess the introduction to 5+1 is in our minds the way a person heals, and maybe you have nothing to heal. So if you have nothing to heal from, then
Even
it's
better.
about even better. Good for
Even
you.
better.
And then the key is for you to maintain that wonderful health until that moment you die. And whether that's 98
That's
or
right.
108 or 128, whatever, if you believe David Sinclair, it's 150 years of age is our
Which
next
is what
life
we're striving
expectancy.
for. So, right? Like, we're going to try.
So how do we get there? Right? That's where the five come in. So nutrition
Nutrition.
and yeah, exercise, but we'll call it movement.
Yeah,
For
because
some people,
that's
exercise
right.
is a dirty word. It's a dirty word.
Well, and
I mean,
it can be a
shouldn't
turn
be.
off. It can sound like, I know that I recently some people also discredit physical therapy
Mm,
like as an exercise, but they don't think of
hmm
it as the same. It's a very interesting. I like movement. I like
Yeah,
movement.
yeah. So nutrition, movement, and those two are no brainers, right? Nutrition, movement,
Right.
and then stress. So how people deal with stress.
Stress
So
management.
stress management is massive, because you could have the perfect diet, exercise like a fiend, and then completely derail when something minor or something
Yeah.
drastic happens,
Yeah,
right?
right. Your
So
cortisol levels are all over the place. I mean, you're really hurting your
you're revved
body.
up.
You're
So
revved up. Yeah, that's a good way to
and
say it.
then right, and then building a community. So
Community.
having a shared experience is it's what makes us human, right? We are creatures that truly want to connect with others.
Well, and
And
surrounding
so,
yourself by like-minded humans, I think
yes.
there's nothing more powerful than that. And we we operate in a very unconventional lifestyle. My husband's entrepreneurial, I'm entrepreneurial, and when he created his one of his many little things that he does, but that hub, and I remember the day that he started that hub, and it was so interesting because he said, "I'm going to build a house," and he drew a picture of a
Hmm.
house, and he said it's going to be a place where everybody can come and do whatever they want, but they surround themselves with like-minded people so that
Hmm.
all boats rise. And nobody could quite understand what that meant, but there is such a proof in that, and I saw it over the many, many years. Because
And
you're
the
like, well,
many
if you're a graphic
businesses.
designer, right? Yeah, if you're a
Hmm.
graphic designer, and if you're a graphic designer, and you're a graphic designer, then us all working under the same roof as entrepreneurs, how can we thrive? Well,
Right.
you do,
Yeah,
and
and you've
you
seen it. You've
understand.
seen many of
I've
these businesses
seen
take
it.
off. Right,
And I'll tell you,
right.
most importantly, I saw it with my children. My children
Mm-hmm.
went through an unconventional path in schooling, and because they were surrounded, and we weren't like off the grid, biblical,
Mm-hmm.
and my kids are exposed to everything. But community with like-minded
Mm-hmm.
people is probably
Mm-hmm.
one of the most the amount of empowerment that you gain. And what's the reason I want to emphasize on that one so much is because the average person discredits the amount of lifespan that they are losing if they are staying in an unhealthy marriage,
Mm-hmm.
an unhealthy job, because society has really said that that's the way it's supposed to be. Well, I know you don't
Well,
like school, but just go to it. I know you
well,
don't like your job, but you need to work.
well, that whole building community, there's actually interesting data in the cardiac literature that if you have the same person, they go in with a heart attack, and let's say they have the same blood vessel that's blocked, they both get a stent, it's uncomplicated. One goes home to an empty house, and the other
Yeah.
person goes home to a home with other
Yeah.
family. The
Yeah.
person with a successful procedure has a significantly higher risk of morbidity and mortality, so risk of
Yeah.
death, because they
Well,
went home
there's
to
no
an
one
empty
there
house.
to give them the energy
Right.
that we're all made up of
Yeah.
this energy. So I really
So
emphasize the community
community.
because I don't want it to be discredited, because
Yes.
it's not
No.
just like, oh, whatever. Like, I know my
Mm-mm.
neighbors, we're not talking about that. We're going to get into
Yeah.
each one of these
Right.
pieces in depth, but if you're hearing it for the first time and you don't listen to us again, just understand how important that is. And then I think
And
one of the
then
other ones is
sleep.
sleep. Sleep.
Mm-hmm. So sleep is in our modern society so much to say about sleep. So
I
much
know.
to
I don't
say,
know one
but
person who's getting enough except Little Winter.
oh, little Winter, your little goddaughter, your little niece.
I
She's
think she's the only person getting enough sleep right now.
she's doing good. She's how many months and she's at 12 hours a night? That's pretty good.
She's 4 months and she slept from
Mm,
7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Yeah.
mm. So sleep and just how incredibly important, not just to mood, but to disease and longevity. And then we said plus one
That's right.
because trauma, and trauma doesn't have to, it doesn't, obviously, there are horrific events that people unfortunately surviving, or not surviving through,
Yeah, working
that
through still. Yeah,
really, that really just defines a trajectory in your life and
that's right.
derails you, and how you handle that trauma, how you bury that trauma because you need to survive,
Yeah.
how
Or you
that
just simply don't
trauma,
recognize it,
or you
like
don't
even
recognize
the
it, and
loss of
it's,
a pet for a small child gets sort of written off, but you don't
yeah, so
realize that
the
that's a
trauma
first
doesn't have to
layer.
be right, it doesn't have
It's
to
the
be
first layer.
anything. And it can, and we can even talk about generational trauma. So what was
Oh,
your,
oh,
right, I
oh my
mean,
goodness.
that's
How much
right.
time?
So
The people don't want to hear that all
so
today.
so we said plus one, because in one sense, do you recognize that it's there? And maybe you're just that incredibly lucky person that really hasn't
Yeah,
had any. You've just had this wonderful life, and that's amazing. So
yeah.
we said plus one because we don't want to assume, right, that everyone is living with trauma. But I got to tell you, just in my experience, somehow, some shape or form, we are all dealing with some level of trauma.
Myself
So,
included. I mean, I don't know, for those that don't know, I mean, I'm a stylist and have a salon and work on multiple people throughout a day, and
and
it
the
is it
stories
is
you
the
hear.
core of every conversation that
Mm-hmm.
we have, and
Mm-hmm.
the culture demographic, the age demographic, men and women,
Mm-hmm.
and single, divorced,
Yeah,
grandparents,
doesn't
widows,
matter.
widowers. It doesn't matter. Everybody has
Mm-hmm.
a story, and I
Mm-hmm.
truly believe that all of these, um, every one of these little topics that we brought up, those 5+1, are critical in, sustainability, longevity, and honestly living the happiest lifestyle that you could ever live. We're not
And
here
we're
to
all
say
entitled. We're all entitled to
every
that, right?
single person
We're
deserves to live a
all
life that is
entitled.
pure
Honors
bliss
them.
and
And
completely out of pain. And I love that you said that, Chippy, that every person should live until the second you die as healthy and the best life that you can possibly live. Because
die healthy. That's the motto.
That getting old and deteriorating in our own skin, we
Doesn't
have
have to be.
normalized that. And it doesn't have to be that. That's not normal. Cell degeneration is a disease. And yes, everybody has an expiration date, but your cell degeneration is a disease.
Aging is a disease.
It is not
and we can alter it. Yeah.
And I think that one of the things we're gonna dive deep into these things, right? So nutrition, movement, sleep, community. What was the other one?
Stress management.
I have it written down because that's cheat sheet. Stress management, and then also the +1, and so
trauma.
The +1 is the unresolved trauma. That most of us live with. If you're that lucky human being that doesn't, or you have resolved it, can you please call us? Because we want to talk to you. You are the person we want to talk to. You're the unicorn out there that we've been looking for our whole lives. But yeah, I mean, like Dr. Chippy and I, we are so excited about this. We just want to share this. This podcast is less about talking about the negative things that are out there. We all know what they are, but we do want to highlight all of the beautiful things that are available to us every day in the changes we can make. One of the things that we'll go back and forth is you'll hear us talk about a book called Tiny Habits. If you've read it, then that's awesome. If you haven't, pick it up or download it on your Kindle or whatever and just glance at it. It's really simple.
Or we can summarize it for you.
We'll summarize it for you, but in absolute layman's terms, in a blip, just one little thing every day. That's it.
Yeah.
And so we're going to deep dive into each one of these topics. And so we really wanted to just come on here, introduce ourselves, talk about our passions. And after 20 plus years, we are finally in the same lane. And I get
Meaning I have joined you in your lane.
Yeah, Chippy's joined my practice. Well, no, you have not joined me in my lane because your lane is very critical. I mean, we've talked about that. If somebody breaks their arm,
please go see a doctor.
Please go to the ER or the orthopedic. I mean, if we have to tell you this, then please listen to the other topics. We're going to walk you through all that. But yeah, we're not. We don't have a nutraceutical for that. But there are plenty of things that we do have a lot of information on, and we believe that if you stay on course with us, we're going to guide you through so many things that are going to, if you are in that marriage that you're considering, you're not sure what to do with, I know you may not want to hear this, and it may not be the resolution for you, but honestly, sometimes removing some of those endocrine disruptors from our day-to-day might help the way that we think, and it might help the way that we view the things that are making us feel sad, because those are very real things. And
or just taking the time, right? Just taking the time
to talk about it, think about it,
to reflect on what it is that you want. Who is it that you want to show up to be? How can you best honor who you are? I think so. Hopefully we have a lot.
And I love that you and I went to that beautiful yoga on Wednesday night,
God.
And she hit on that, and she said, and that's one of the things that I love about that. And we'll introduce you guys to all of our favorite. I think we have a beautiful army that we've built that we want to introduce our viewers to and our listeners to. But that was one of the things she said was just decide, and it doesn't matter. You don't have to show up every day being, an unflawed human, because I've yet to meet one of those. Like I said, if you're that unicorn, please find us. But just show up being the best version of yourself for that day, and that's okay. Like, that's totally okay. But we do feel that we do have a formula that can help you surpass, where you are now. I know for me, every day, I'm constantly seeking new ways to do that. So unless there's anything that Dr. Chippy wants to add, and if there's, I'm sure we've left you hanging with a bunch of questions, and
Well, but we'll
which
get
is
through.
great.
We'll
We're
go
going to
through
get
it
through.
bit
Yeah,
by
we
bit.
do want questions.
Tiny
So
habits.
you can email us
Yeah,
at
or
Ask
and
Assunta.
what people want to hear.
Yes,
I mean,
definitely. This is an opportunity. I mean, guys, listen, we've got Dr. Chippy here. When was the last time you get to sit and reach out to your doctor? You're gonna learn so many ways that you can be in the same room with her. If you can't be in the same room with her, you could hear her, virtually. She's gonna do guided meditations. She's gonna walk you through so many different things that, in my opinion, is an absolute privilege to be a part of. And so we're inviting you to embark on this journey with us. Dr. Chippy's waking up tomorrow, a whole new woman. She doesn't have to go to work.
Oh my God.
Well, not this week. Not this week.
Well, this weekend. I'm
this
not
weekend.
on call.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
But
not
not
on
the
call.
whole. Yeah.
A weekend that, there's no call. There's no call weekend
There's
in my
no more call
lifetime.
in your lifetime.
Crazy.
She's going back to work, and you're all going to have the privilege to be a part of that. And you're going to get to witness it all unfold. We're going to take you through that whole journey. We're going to document it all and talk about all the changes that Dr. Chippy is making in her day-to-day life to present her best version to you, because she's been depleted.
Because neither one of us want to be a hypocrite, right? So we're gonna live it.
We're working.
We're doing it.
So we thank you so much. We hope that you'll stick with us, because we are going to present some really, really cool stuff. And but most importantly, like Dr. Chippy said, we really want to hear from you. If you have questions that you want answered, if you want topics that you want us to hit on, please email us, askassunta@gmail.com. And you can always find us on Instagram. Chippy is the Mindful Cardiologist, and I'm Ask Assunta.
I haven't posted in a while, so now I suppose I need to start.
Hey, get to that.
Now that I'm not working,
Get to that. Yeah. This is your work. This is your work. So with that, I think that's a great place to end today. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening, and we're so happy to be doing this, and we hope that you enjoy it as much as we enjoy doing it. So it might just be us. We might just be Zoom calling each other.
That's true. That's okay.
That's okay.
We'll make our
we
kids
have a lot
watch
to say.
it.
Our kids will watch it. Maybe some patients. Maybe some clients. It's fine.
It's okay.
So thank you, everybody, for joining, and we hope to see you next time.
In this moment I feel so clear. Oh, ask Assunta for a magic spell to make us feel and live so well. In her wisdom life does swell.